So the IntelliFront part of the training class starts on about page, what is that, 61. There's a table of contents with the labs. And then here is lab 1. And so we already started Chrome. We went to localhost. We logged in, slightly different password. So now we're going to create a project. So there's a plus create button at the bottom. We'll give our project a name. So down here at the bottom, it says, let's see, I don't need that. So I click plus create, give my project a name. I'm going to call it something slightly different. I'm going to call it, and the first letter has to be lowercase and no spaces. The display name can be a little bit more descriptive. I'm going to do November training. And then the display name can be a little bit, you have a little more flexibility. So I'm going to call it November 2020 Essential Training. So type in a name and a display name, click create. Your project has been created, click OK. And then you have this kind of tile here. And then in the lower right corner, there's an arrow pointing to the right. If you hover, it says Open Project. Click on Open Project. And so there's this blue navigation bar at the top. And the underlying database that IntelliFront uses is, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of a product called SkySpark. They're well known for their analytics software for commercial buildings. And the SkySpark database uses the underlying database it uses is called Folio, and that's the same database that IntelliFront uses. And kind of the general structure of the Folio database is there's 4 levels. There's a site, which I think of as a building. There's a floor, which is a floor in the building, first floor, second floor, basement, penthouse, mezzanine, that sort of thing. Then within each floor, there can be one or more equips for equipment, which I think of as a controller. And then within each equip, there can be one or more points, which is either a hardware or software point for that controller. So there's 4 levels, and there's a number of different apps that we'll be using in IntelliFront. If you click on this menu icon on the far left of the blue bar, these are all the different apps that IntelliFront has. And a lot of the apps are what we call navigation sensitive, meaning the way they behave will vary depending on where you are in the navigation tree. And so in this navigation tree, we're going to pick sites and floors and equips. And so when we're building a graphic for VAV controllers, we'll want to navigate to the VAV equip. When we're building graphics for an air handler controller, we want to navigate to the air handler equip, that sort of thing. So we'll have to pay attention to that nav bar as we're working through the different apps. And then just a little bit of background. I'm going to go to j2in.com. J2 Innovations is they make a software product referred to as the Fin framework, and IntelliFront is our branded version of the Fin framework. So if you want to learn a little bit more about the Fin, kind of the background behind J2's product, there's some different sections here. And so product Fin framework just kind of goes through and gives you a little bit of background. The software itself can run on all kinds of different hardware. We choose to run it on Windows computers, but that's not the only way. It can run on Linux. Basically anything that can run the Java runtime environment can run IntelliFront. So again, IntelliFront is our branded version of the Fin framework that you see at J2's page. One of the the main way we're going to connect here is with BACnet, so BACnet IP. And so normally with BACnet, we would be able to discover the controllers. Because of this VPN setup we have, we're going to do it a little bit differently. I'm going to have you open a project that has the controllers. They've already been kind of discovered and added to the database, so we don't have to discover them. But normally you could discover them with BACnet. Our IntelliFront also includes what's referred to as the ASI connector. Connectors like a driver. And so IntelliFront can also use communicate using ASI protocol through the Ethernet port if you have ASI protocol controllers that you want to bring into the front end. And so I mentioned that IntelliFront uses that Folio database. It's as you can see here, it's optimized specifically for buildings. There's a lot of fast on-the-fly queries, stuff like that. And there's some labor-saving mechanisms within IntelliFront to help speed up the development of your front end, whether it's writing programs, building graphics. It'll make a lot of intelligent decisions for you. And what it's looking for to be able to understand more about your building is what's referred to as tags. And so tags are kind of like descriptors or characteristics of a point. And so another site that would be helpful for you to look at some point would be Project Haystack. So it's project-haystack.org. You may have heard of Haystack. Project Haystack does a few different things. The main thing we're going to focus on are the tags. And so they've come up with kind of these reference set of tags. And there's two different types of tags. There's what's referred to as marker tags, which are like binary tags. Either it has that characteristic or it doesn't. And one example of that is here's the AHU tag. So our equips we're going to want to tag those so that we know what type of equipment it's controlling. So there's an AHU tag that can be applied to an equip, and it should be applied, if you're following their recommendations to air handler units with sheet and or cool air. Likewise, there's a marker tag called VAV, which is applied to an equip for a VAV controller. So that's a marker tag. It's kind of like an on-off. Either it has that tag or it doesn't. An example of the different type of tag that we refer to as a property tag. A property tag is more like an analog tag. It's not just on or off, but it'll have some type of a description or a number or whatnot. And one example of that is this one called AHU ref. So when we're configuring our database, the VAVs, we're going to want to give them AHU ref so that the software knows which air handler is supplying those VAVs with air. And if you go on and drill down into an equip or any tag, it'll give you more information. So if I drill down into the VAV tag here, it'll give me more information for variable, actually, I should say variable air volume, not volume. And then there's other tags that usually are associated with VAVs. So you can tell, is it cool only, meaning not a, there's no heat or anything. There can be series or parallel if the fan powered tag has been applied. And then there's the different reheat options. Is it electric? Is it hot water? You'll see a reference to an HVAC tag throughout Project Haystack. I generally haven't used the HVAC tag because our customers, almost everything they do is HVAC related. And so if everything has the HVAC tag, it's not very helpful. What the tags help do is help kind of query or differentiate points so you can run different queries to find something very specific. But if everything has the HVAC tag, it's not particularly helpful. And then if you scroll down through here, there's some different types of points that you might expect to see in a VAV equip. So each of these words is a different tag. So there's a zone tag as opposed to like discharge or return or mixed air if it was an air handler. there's air as opposed to water. There's temp as opposed to humidity or CO2 or pressure or those, other types of kind of sensors that you're measuring. And then there's sensor. We'll see that there's 3 different types of points. So the sensors I think of as inputs. CMD for command I think of as outputs. And then SP as set point. And I think of that as if it's not a sensor and it's not, meaning it's not an input, it's not a command, meaning not an output, then set point is the only remaining choice. So this is another site that you can kind of take a look through, when you have a few minutes, just to kind of get kind of familiar with Haystack tagging. And we're certainly going to do a lot of tag-based stuff over the next couple days, Monday and Wednesday. But there's more in here than we'll cover this week. Haystack is also it's a protocol for communication, not commonly used these days. But one potential usage of IntelliFront that we are not going to do this week is, what happened there? Oh, that was weird. Okay. One potential usage of IntelliFront is if you have a building that you're servicing that has Niagara product in it. So if there's, 1 or more JACEs communicating with controllers in the building, you can also use IntelliFront to kind of take over the front end without affecting the communication wiring. So basically, IntelliFront can communicate with all the controllers that the JACE knows about. And you do have to put an unlicensed jar file on the JACE to allow it to communicate using Haystack protocol. But IntelliFront can then communicate with the JACE using Haystack to get at any points read-write in the JACE. Anything that the JACE knows about, can basically be brought into IntelliFront. So that's not a common usage, but it's something to be aware of if you are doing some service in a building that has some JACEs in it. So let's get back to the document here. So we've created the project. So we confirmed that the project was created. And so you'll see throughout this document that there's some of these areas in the red with red rectangles. Those are some differences that I've made, or some changes I've made for the kind of online virtual class as opposed to the live in-person training that we used to do. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to upload and restore a project that just has a list of all the controllers that we're going to communicate with, so that we don't have to kind of manually enter the coordinates. And so it says use the Folio app to upload and restore the essential training project. And so what that means is, I'm going to go back to IntelliFront. So you can click on the little menu icon here and then select Folio in the advanced app section. And then you can, a lot of times when you click on a tile here, you'll get a menu in the background. And so once you click on the Folio app, you can click on menu here in the background. Then it brings up this list here on the right. And so snapshots are kind of like backups. And so click on snapshots on the right. And one other thing, IntelliFront really is designed for mobile. It's really mobile first, all the way down to phones. So the stuff that you can see, the screen is generally split into a larger left area and a smaller right area. What you see in the smaller right area is typically what you'd see on your phone when your phone's in portrait view. And some apps work better than others there, but you wouldn't normally do Folio stuff there, but just keep in mind that there's kind of two sides to the screen. So once I'm in the snapshots menu, I can click upload snapshot, and then it asks to choose a file. And one of those virtual training files that I sent, let's see. Yeah, so the virtual training files that I sent, one of them is named Essential Training 200925-092036.zip. So there should be a zip file that's pretty small. It's less than 2 megabytes in size. So this is the file you want to upload into IntelliFront. So when I do choose file, go find that essential training zip file from the virtual training files that you had downloaded prior to last week's class. And then when you click open, it'll show you the name to that file. So then once we've selected the essential training zip file, you click upload. And all that does is it puts it in the list of snapshots. So you should have one from September 25th. So when you click on that September 25th snapshot, then click restore. Restore means make that the new active project. So you get a menu slides in from the right, click restore, and then it says it is recommended to restart. And this is a little weird because it says clicking restart will restart the service for Windows. So you don't really want to click OK. You do want to click restart. And so then what we want to do to confirm that we have that project doing the right thing is click on your menu icon, top left, go to the DB Builder app listed underneath System Integrator app. And then in this tree on the left, if you drill down through connectors and BACnet, you should see a list of 6 air handler controllers, 6 RTU controllers, and 6 VAV controllers. And that's a sign that you do have the right project there. And then going back to the guide here. Okay, so we uploaded and restored the essential training project. We've already opened the project. So now we're going to go into DB Builder and create our site. So that means go all the way. If you're not already in DB Builder, you can do menu DB Builder. Click on the equip tree at the top. And if, we don't need a lot of these trees right now. You do have the option to, all the way at the top here where it says select tree, you can choose to hide or show different trees. They're all shown by default. I tend to leave them all shown, but if they're kind of getting in the way, like we're only working on the equip tree right now. So click on the equip tree, and then at the bottom, there's this plus, and then we can add a site. And it says to give our site a name of just training, with a capital T is fine. Training. Click the create button. And then there's our training site. And then it says, click on the training site and enter the correct country, city, state, time zone. So here's my training site. Here's my country. Type in United. If you just start typing, it'll narrow it down. So then you can find United States for the geo country. The city, our office is in a city called Pleasanton. You could type in, your city and your state and New York. And then your time zone would be New York. I think it finds your computer's time zone by default. Yeah. So I got a country, I got a city, I got a state, I have a time zone. And then I click save. And so now that is set. Let's make this a little wider. So then we're going to restore a template. And the template, what it's going to do is it's going to give us a list of points that we want from from the ASIC 1 controllers, the VAV and the rooftop controller, so that we don't have to discover those points. We don't have to tag them manually. We're going to use a feature called cloning, because ASIC 1s are nice to work with because the kind of the point layout is very predictable. The zone temperature is always the first input. Opening the damper is always the first output. All the set points are stored in the same locations. So templates is one way in IntelliFront that you can kind of speed up the building of your points and tags if your controllers are all programmed the same. So what it says here then is just click on the training site and the training tab, and then you'll see a restore template button. So here's my training site. And then here's the training tab here. And then all the way at the bottom, you have this Restore Template button. So if you click Restore Template, it says to choose a file. And there's a file called Backup Essential Training No Tuning.fst in your virtual training files list. So I'm going to choose a file. Here's the Backup Essential Training No Tuning. FST, I think, stands for FinStack Template. So usually you won't open that, directly, but it's a file format that IntelliFront knows about. And Colin, were you able to find the FST file? Okay, so click Open. It should show you the name. Click Restore. And then the result of that is that we have this essential training site, which is, it's not a live site. These are not live controllers. But if you drill down through the essential training site floor 1, you'll see an equip for RTU 101, which is an 8100 controller that has a series of points and tags, points with tags that we can clone from to our live controller. So like the zone temperature input for RTU 101, again, not a live data point, but you can see it is analog input instance 0. It's got some tags like zone plus air and temp. The type is a sensor. Similarly for VAV 101, it's got a series of points with tags. Primary airflow in this example is analog input instance 3. It's a sensor type, and it's been tagged as point in discharge and air and flow. So the reason we're using this template is so that we can apply the same points and tags to our live RTU and VAV controllers. So that's the step we want there. And then it says you will see a site named Essential Training with RTU 101 and VAV 101. Change the city and time zone to match your location. So for the Essential Training site, there's United States. The city, I'll type in as Pleasanton. The state, I'll choose California. And the time zone, I'll choose as Los Angeles, just like my original site, and save that.
Weird.
And I've seen that the state somehow doesn't like to change. I'm not quite sure why it doesn't, and it's not really a big deal. But another way I think you can do it is if you click this I button up here at top right, where it says geostate. I think you can type in like CA if I want California. And then at that point, you probably could pick, let's see if it'll let me pick New York. No. Yeah, so the I button, at least if you can change the state here by just typing in, you know what, I think it may be, let's see, that's a gray one. I've never looked at this. Let me take a look here. Oh no, that looks the same. Yeah, I don't know why it's behaving differently there. But anyway, not a big deal because it's not a live point anyway. But so I've got country, city, state, and time zone for my essential training site. And then step 11, going back to the training site, we're going to go to the, we're going to click the plus button to add floor 1 and add floor 2 to the training site. So if you go back to your training site, it says click on the training tab. You don't really need to. So just click on the training site and then click plus. And then you can add a floor and call it floor 1. Create. Notice it inherited the time zone from the site. Close. And then go back to the training site. Click on the plus and add a floor called floor 2. Inherited the time zone, click close. So Colin, you have a training site with 2 floors now?
Yep.